Hello everyone, the voice is back. Today, I will be giving you a basic setup for a nuclear power plant in Industrialist. Keep in mind I am using Sandbox Plus for this setup. Throughout the video, I will pause at each section so you could copy it on your own world if you want to. Like, subscribe, and let's begin. Let's first identify the two main loops of the power plant. This is the distilled water loop. Distilled water is used to flood the reactor hall and to provide makeup water to the reactor. Water that is drained from the reactor, or after flooding the reactor hall, leaves here as contaminated water. This contaminated water then flows through 3 water filtration plants. These are all connected to a fluid spawner outputting steam at 400 degrees Celsius. I use 3 filtration plants because one alone processes too slowly and the loop backs up. These are all powered with a DEV solar panel. The distilled water then flows back into the distilled water input. Here I have 2 fluid spawners, outputting distilled water. This is just to fill up the loop before startup. You can connect it like this. You could also use the huge distilled water well and connect it to the loop. But I just use the huge pipe converter because it looks better. Pause if you want to copy the setup. Next, we have the main circulation loop. There are 4 cooling pumps in the plant, which pushes and pulls hot water from the reactor. This gets outputted to the heat exchangers and steam is generated towards the turbines. The used contaminated water then enters back into the cooling pumps and to the reactor. I also have a fluid spawner, outputting boric acid. I currently have 2 output lines connected each heat exchanger. These lines connect to the hot water input of the heat exchanger. The used water flows back into the input line. When the steam condenses, it turns back into distilled water. This water is inputted towards the cool water input of the heat exchangers. It also merges with the distilled water line. Keep in mind, you have to fill up the cool water inputs of the heat exchangers before starting up. I have a fluid spawner outputting distilled water, connected to a huge pipe converter. This will fill the water input needed to convert to steam. Pause if you want to copy the setup. This is the other side. Next up is the turbine. For the steam input, I have each heat exchanger linked to their own turbine. The steam flows through a few intersections. Anyways, this heat exchanger links to this turbine. While this heat exchanger links to the other turbine. Pause if you want to copy the setup. For the actual turbine, I have a steam input, a high-pressure turbine, an intermediate pressure turbine, and 4 low-pressure turbines. I then end it with a generator and exhaust. The exhaust outputs low-pressure steam which is fed to the condenser. Pause if you want to copy the setup. The condenser section is quite simple. The condensed water is fed to the polisher. I have 2 fluid spawners outputting sodium hydroxide solution and hydrochloric acid. The condenser and polisher are powered with a DEV solar panel. In order for the condenser to cool, however, we need a cooling tower. A mistake I keep making in the past is forgetting to fill the coolant loop. This results in the condenser slowing down and backing up the turbines. I have a distilled water spawner connected to fill the loop initially. The output of the cooling tower goes to the input of the condenser and vice versa. However, try not to fill the loop all the way. Pause if you want to copy the setup. In the back, I have 2 gold item tanks. These store the used fuel from the reactor. I also have an item spawner that outputs concrete blocks. You would only need this if your reactor explodes. This input allows you to use control rods and fuels in your reactor. Usually, I input control rods and standard fuel rods using an item spawner. Just type in the name of it in the spawner. As you can see, they are being stored. Always remember to clear out your nodes. Almost all components, including heat exchangers and condensers, have a power node. This node allows you to control or gain intel on the component in the control room of the power plant. To connect it, find the power node on the component and connect it to the power node of the power plant using the wire tool. As you can see, I have lots of things connected to it. Also, as a cool feature, every turbine connected to the plant has its own number. It also changes from blue to red. As for power, I have two main lines. The power generated from the turbines goes to a high-volt tower that's connected to a battery. But I also connected it to the power plant. This is entirely optional, but I do it for realistic purposes. Both off-site and turbine power feed to a high-volt tower connected to the plant. Off-site power is just a few high-volt towers that's connected to a DEV solar panel. The emergency power is run on a battery. Again, it's completely optional, but I do it for realistic purposes. Thanks for watching. I hope this video helped you to build your very first nuclear power plant. I will be posting a startup video soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe.